online, Letis Borowski. Thanks so much for joining us again. Let's, well, it's a new year, but the news equally horrifying, isn't it? We're seeing that's happened out of the US. Lots of the front pages reflecting the New Orleans attack, Letis, and the Daily Mirror, of course, a picture of that truck that drove into people, killing 15.
Yeah, exactly. This image, this headline, New Orleans seems to be on all the front pages today. It's this top story, really. It's a tragedy. Most of them are saying 10 people, but now we do know that, sadly, 15 people have been killed and 35 more have been injured. What will be going forward now is trying to figure out the motives behind why this man decided to do this. It's believed he was not working alone. More information is coming out about that slowly, but it's believed that other people were also involved in this. Explosive devices were found in his car. They were safely detonated by bomb squads. The man in question was killed when he did this attack. So there was clearly intent behind this. He arrived at the scene, drove the car down. He was wearing professional body armor, so he was ready for a fight, got out and then engaged in guns shootout with the police there. So he was ready, almost to die. He was shot and killed by police at the scene. So really more information is coming out, literally in dribs and drabs, and we'll have to wait and see what else comes.
Yeah, President Biden obviously saying they are investigating whether there's a connection to that second Tesla that exploded outside Trump International Hotel.
Yeah, and this is the pattern that we keep seeing. We saw it in Germany and here with cars being used as a weapon, which of course is much harder for intelligence services to track, to predict, to gauge, which is, I dare say, why a number of these attacks have managed to escape security services and go ahead. And I think, you know, you imagine that British forces must be looking carefully at how to prevent this happening. I was saying to Letis, I notice a lot of public areas in London now have bollards around areas of gathering. There's a new Paddington station. It's got bollards all outside of the front. You see it quite a lot, clearly, because they're trying to prevent the possibility of attacks like this.
Yeah. And on the car, quickly, like you were saying, it's harder to track them. This car is believed to have been rented off someone else, another individual, another 42-year-old, through a car-sharing system in America. So, again, it's almost impossible to track those kind of things.
Yeah. Let's move on now, Benjamin. This is the Times paper. It's page 4, and it's a child mental health crisis.
Yes, which we've heard lots of things about, and this is some evidence that the number of under 18s who have needed urgent care, so that's somebody being seriously mentally ill, maybe suicidal, is up 10% in 6 months, which I think, you know, we hear a lot about the issues that social media is causing, online bullying, and this is some evidence that clearly there's a mental health crisis. The government is actually pledging 8,500 new professionals to help with children's mental health. I think they want to put one in every school, which strikes me as a very good step forward. But Young Minds, the charity, says that referrals are rising pretty steadily for young people coming to crisis point.
OK. The other story that I wanted us to focus on, Letis, this was your pick, a missing woman found alive and well 52 years after vanishing, and she was just 16 years old when she went missing.
It's absolutely fascinating story, and I guess it sort of shows the power of social media perhaps now. So, yeah, she went missing when she was 16 in 1972. It was sort of believed at the time that she might have been in a relationship with an older man. None of that has been confirmed, but recently police put out another appeal. You can see the image there, you can see it behind us there as well. A very sort of grainy image of what she would have looked like at the time. And people came forward and they said that they knew her, and she's actually been found. She's now 68 years old. It's not quite confirmed as to what happened back then, but she's been living a normal life, we believe, but just in another part of the country.
Yeah,
Isn't it
it's
extraordinary?
Fascinating. Yeah. And that single picture that you see
sort of
her
grainy.
from the early 1970s.
It wouldn't necessarily look like anyone, I would say, but enough people came forward that they did.
And if you're missing, but you don't know you're missing, are you missing? It's kind of, it's a strange conundrum, isn't it?
That's the subject of perhaps a podcast spin-off.
Exactly.
But that's a good news story.
Yes.
Yeah, let's move on to another story here. This is the Telegraph, and it's half of the public think the burglars will not be caught, and that's a shocking, sad state of affairs, isn't it?
It's shocking. Over 45% of people say they're not confident that the police would appear or properly investigate if they were a victim of a burglary. Over 45%, that is so high. The police are there as a force that you can trust. More than anything, they are there to do that. And I think really sadly, this just shows the erosion of trust that we've had with the police over recent years. We've got the more extreme cases of the abuse of power under Sarah Everard, but then you've also got the smaller cases of shoplifting that we see on our streets every day, and it just feels like they are not doing enough, they're not taking enough action, and really they need to start at the basics. They need to start rebuilding trust with society, because this is damning.
Yeah, this is interesting. This stat, more than 40% of the public also said they wouldn't be confident that police officers would actually turn up if they were called in an emergency.
I mean, it's no surprise. I think London's the phone-snatching capital of the world now. You know, you have so many of these so-called low-level crimes that police don't give sufficient attention to. And the problem, once that narrative gets hold, is that, first of all, people don't trust the police to the extent they used to. But next, the people that are going to carry out these attacks, these burglaries, these thefts, they get the confidence to think that actually the chances they're going to be followed up are slim. You know, the sheer number of videos you see on social media of people walking into supermarkets and just, I mean, you see it in daily life, and just taking whatever they want. And I think the Co-op said that they've put cameras on people's uniforms in recent years is some attempt, because often when thefts happen in supermarkets, the police don't even turn up. And so I think you've got that expectation or lack of expectation with something as invasive as a burglary, which, you know, I've never experienced. It must be horrific to have someone in your own home.
And it's also one of the sort of key milestones that Starmer has said he's going to tackle. So it's got to be something that they're going to be pushing towards. You know, you need to see physically police out on the streets, and hopefully getting more police community officers out there will sort of make people feel more comfortable around the police.
Yeah,
again.
apparently there are 4,500 police and community support officers have been taken off our streets since 2014.
Well, the austerity measures that sort of came in that time, with them all being taken away, it's now the real impact that we're feeling. Like you say, the overconfidence of burglars. I mean, you mentioned the cameras, but also having butter and things like that locked away behind sealed doors is just a ridiculous measure that we have to kind of live in. We shouldn't be living in that society. We should feel safe that we can leave food out that might be slightly higher priced, like butter, and it's not going to get
Then
wrong.
it goes to a black market. We've covered this extensively on Sky, in particular baby formula that we locked into those cases that you talk about, stolen and then sold on the black market, because people feel increasingly desperate.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of the thefts are people who are subsequently selling it on, rather than people that are in a desperate situation. And that says that, you know, it's more organised. The police should be able to deal with that, and yet they're not. And I think once you've broken the trust with the public, it's very hard to get this back.
Okay.
I mean, I know I've reported a crime and it's not been followed up, and I was incensed. But, you know, are there not enough of them? Is there too much paperwork? You know, something has gone wrong that, you know, it wasn't like this 20 years ago.
OK, we're going to go on to a slightly lighter note, and this is the front page of the Daily Star, the cow that saved the world.
Yes, good news. Hilda, the IVF cow from Dumfries in Scotland, she produces much less methane than a normal cow. And methane is very bad for the environment, 84 times worse than carbon dioxide, I have learned this morning. And so basically, methane is a massive problem for us. We've got legally binding targets, global emission targets to reduce methane. And so if we have lots more Hildas, we could reduce the methane that is produced in this country significantly. I don't think she knows what a special cow she is. But it's part of this farm where they've been genetically engineering the cows for about 50 years, since the 1970s, to be able to get a version that is that is less damaging, that is less dangerous.
Yeah, it's a long time when you think about it, though. It's taken 50 years just to get Hilda. It feels like, can we really wait another 50 years to maybe just get another sort of herd going? How much longer is this going to really take?
I know, I don't know how frequently cows reproduce, but Hilda's going to have to get busy, yeah. If we're going to
Work
save
cut
the
out for
planet.
her.
No, it's so interesting, isn't it? Because we've heard Sir Keir Starmer say, look, we all need to be eating less meat because the impacts on the environment. And here we have a potential mechanism that could revolutionise the dairy industry and lower those methane gases.
And dairy demand is still rising, so you know the need for farmers to produce this is there. 12% of our emissions come from agriculture, so you know it's a massive part. In many ways, it's as bad as things like cars. And so, you know, the idea that we found a way to do it without affecting our lifestyles, our quality of life, our expectation of the food industry, it sounds like a pretty fortunate move. But yeah, you're going to need rather more than just Hilda.
Well, they'll be needing a whole herd. We've got Professor Mike Coffey, who will be on talking about the importance of this and where it could lead in the next hour. So do stay tuned. Thanks so much for your company today. Great to see you in the new year. Thanks for your company at home too. We will be back with our top stories after a very short break.
There's always more to the news than headlines.